You do.
Rabbi, thank
Yes.
you for asking.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, good morning. So on the email that I sent out yesterday, what did I say my topic was going to be? Okay, so I don't feel bad that I'm changing it then. If only one person mentioned what it is, I don't feel bad that I'm changing it. Vayera, that I'm not changing. That's not for me to change. That's been said already for a while. Right? But what I said the topic was going to be was understanding Abraham. At that point I wasn't sure if I wanted to go into the Akedah, right, which is a quite a topic to tackle.
What does it mean?
The Akedah is the binding of Isaac, that whole Parsha, which is an amazing Parsha. And when I say Parsha, I don't mean weekly portion, I mean section. Or if I wanted to go into Avraham and the guests coming, right, the three passers-by, which is how the Parsha begins. Or if I wanted to go through Avraham's advocating on behalf of Sodom, which is of Sodom, the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, right, which also is big issues. So I figured I was safe if I would just title it Understanding Abraham. And that way I've got all options open.
And the business with Sarah, that he said Jesus is...
Yes, there's a lot of things.
Let's talk about some contradictory, controversial. The fact that he was kind, we know. We discussed.
Okay, but I decided that I'm going to do none of the above. And I'd like to discuss fascinating, as a medrash, fascinating, and that is the scandal that leads to Moshiach. Let's call it that. Okay? And I probably should have thought of this yesterday before I sent out the email, because that would have ooh, that sounds interesting. Right? But I didn't. But the issue is that a tremendous amount of time in the Parsha is dedicated to the whole story of Lot being saved, Lot and his daughters, and it seems so strange. Why is all of this cloth, all of this parchment, all of this dio, all of this ink, all of these letters, words, psukim of the Torah being dedicated to Lot? And we're going to soon see what Lot got himself into a crazy mess. And we had this whole parsha on the Lot's being rescued from the mess that he got himself into. Not only that, but right from the very second pasuk, we already have this idea of Lot figuring in the parsha. And with Lot, it goes from bad to worse. As we have Lot and his daughters, I mean, it's not PG-13, okay, with what's going on over there, right? So why is all of this being given such importance? And the Medrash, and we're going to work through what's happening there, but the Medrash, well, I'll read you the Medrash when we get to that pasuk that it's about. Where do we see Lot already in the second verse? So let's begin in Hebrew from the beginning. And Ruti, bevakasha, bechavod. Beautiful. So take that for us in English, please.
Hashem appeared to him in the plains of Mamre, while he was sitting in the entrance of the tent in the heat of the day. He lifted his eyes and saw, and behold, 3 men were standing over him. He perceived So he ran towards them from the entrance of the tent and bowed towards the ground. And he said, My Lord, if I find favor in your eyes, please pass not away from your servant.
Okay, so what's happening over here? Hashem's appearing to him. Why is Hashem appearing to him? So we look back at the previous Parsha on page 76, the end of Lech Lecha, and Avram Avinu just went through the Brit Milah, the circumcision, the covenant of circumcision. Therefore Hashem appears to him now in the plains of Mamre. Rashi says, Levaker Tachole, he came to visit the sick. And he's sitting there in the heat of the day by the entrance of the tent, hoping for passers-by, right? This is going to be the whole story of the three angels disguised as men who come passing by, and Avraham goes to great lengths to serve them, incredible lengths to serve them, and he gives them food, and he gives them drink, and he gives them shelter, and this was beyond when a person is in such physical pain and that he's doing all this, and therefore because of the food we received the manna that fell from heaven. Because of the drink we had the be'er, the well waters that accompanied us in the desert, and because of him standing over them and serving them, we had the Anani Akava, we had the clouds of glory. Why three people? Why three people? So Rashi says one of them was levaser et Sarah. One of them was to let Sarah know about the impending birth of Isaac. Echad la'afoch et Sodom, and one of them was to overturn Sodom. The other one was to heal Avraham, and also was to save Lot. So right away we have this inkling of Lot. So what's happening over here? Let's go forward, and with each of these parshiot, right, that's what allows me to do this every year, because there's so much in each of these parshiot. Certainly Vayera, right? We could do the 52 weeks on Vayera itself and not run out. But let's jump up ahead, and let's go to Sodom and Gomorrah. Page 83. Now remember, last week's Parsha, the flocks of Avram and Lot were too great to be in one place. There was dissent between them, and Avram said, whichever way you go, right, you choose your direction and settle there. Lot chose to go to Sodom. Sodom was the epitome of the antithesis of Avraham. Sodom had laws in place. The laws in place, the Medrash tells about it laughingly. The laws that were in place seemed to be crazy, but they were not crazy at all. The laws were that if you came through Sodom and you were accosted, you were beaten up by somebody, then money had to be paid. You had to pay the person who beat you up. The Medrash tells a story that Eliezer, the servant of Avram, was passing through, and a guy came and beat him up. So Eliezer dragged him to court, and the court assessed the damages, and they said, yes, about 200 whatever denomination, right, $200 of damage. Yes, Eliezer, you've got to pay the person who accosted you. I've got to pay him? Yes. What kind of law is that? That's the law here. So Eliezer says, fine. He beats up the judge and says, fair enough. You owe me 100. I owe him 100. Right? Work it out between the two of you. I'm out of here. Right? You know, if it was a law, if it was a short person, if he came for accommodation, they put him onto a long bed and stretch him out. If he was a tall person, they put him onto a short bed and right? It was absurd. What was going on there? This was what I call the first, you'll pardon me, the first gated community. The idea was, we have wealth, and we don't want anyone else to come and partake of our wealth. Right? One person comes, he's going to spread the word. Right? And then more people will come, and more people will come, and more people will come. And then we won't have enough. That will affect our style of living. And therefore, we legislate these laws to make sure that no one comes through. This was Sodom. This is what they were all about. Right? The famous story, well, let's go over here. Let's see for a minute over here. Verse 20 on page 83. Someone take verse 20 for us, please. 20 and 21. So Hashem said?
Hashem said, because the outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah has become great, and because their sin has been very great, I will descend and see if they act in accordance with its outcry which has come to me. Then destruction, all of it, I will know.
Good.
And if not,
I will know. Good. So what was the cry? So the Midrash says the cry was that there was a girl. Imagine this. I'll tell you that the elders of Sodom were tearing their hair out, wondering, where did we go wrong? How could this happen in our community? There was a girl who snuck out of town and gave bread to a poor man who was passing through. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine that? They were horrified. Right? Where did we fail? Where did we fail in our education? So what do? Right? The Midrash says they covered her in honey and put her up on a wall so she would be stung and stung and stung and stung and stung to death. Why? Why that way? So I think what Shlomo Schwadron says, why that way? Because that is what explained their whole shita, their whole outlook. Right? One little sting of a bee. Right? We've all got, I think most of us, I've gotten stung by a bee. Right? Not a big deal. But another one, and then another one, and another one. I was once stung actually by about 25 bees. That was not fun. Right? And if it's more than that, 25, 50, 100, 200, a person can go into toxic shock. A person could die. That was exactly their point. Once you're kind to one person, what's going to happen? One person, not a big deal. But he's going to bring a friend, and 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 word's going to spread, and we're going to die over here. That's what Sodom was all about. Now, and Avram comes forward, and he starts advocating on behalf of Sodom, right? Which is a whole story, right? Which could be a whole topic in and of itself. Why is Avram advocating for Sodom? Right? You know, it's like you have the Cold War, you have the United States, and you have the Soviet Union. And then the Soviet Union is about to crumble, and the United States starts to advocate, no, you've got to keep the Soviet Union going. Are you kidding? Let it crumble. Right? Here is Sodom, the antithesis of Avram, who is the epitome of chesed, of kindness, of guests, of hosting. And now Hashem says, I'm going to wipe out Sodom, and Avram's response is not, well, it's about time. His response is not, well, great, now the world will see with these two competing ideologies, the world will see which is the right one, which is the wrong one. No, Avram starts to advocate to try to save Sodom. Why? Because there might be 50 down to 10 righteous people in Sodom. Right? And that's a fantastic lesson. We're not going to spend time on it now. There are a couple of fantastic lessons there. Number one is what 10 people can do for a whole metropolis. It means that 10 people could have changed the whole metropolis. Think about the responsibility we have on our shoulders. Right? 10 people could have changed the whole metropolis. And another idea is that he's advocating because these are the children of God. And therefore, we don't want the sin to end. We don't want the sinners to end. We want the sin to end. But there's not even the 10 tzaddikim there. So what happens? Page 85, chapter 19. The two angels... I'll take it for us.
Sure. The two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom. Now Lot saw and stood up to meet them, and he bowed, face to the ground. And he said, Behold now, my lords, turn about, please, to your servant's house. Spend the night and wash your feet. Then wake up early and go your way. And they said, No, rather we will spend the night in the square.
Okay. So they came to Sodom, and Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom. What do you mean he was sitting at the gate of Sodom? Lot had become their judge. He was appointed as a judge in Sodom. Now, if you're appointed as a judge in Sodom, means you're buying into that ideology. You've got to maintain, you've got to enforce that ideology, right? A judge in the Soviet Union had to follow all the craziness and send people into that gulag, archipelago over there of the Soviet Union. That's what it meant. That's what you sign up for. Lot is a judge there, and then these passers-by come. And Lot says, you know what? Come to my house. Lot starts to turn around. This is the chesed that he learned in the house of Avram. But it's going to be very, very distorted. What happened? Verse 4. They not laid it down, and the townspeople converged upon the house, from young to old. They called to Lot and said to him, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them. Right? This is how we get the term to sodomize. That's how they wanted to know him. Sodom wanted to know him in the way that in the manner that is now called based on that. They wanted to sodomize him. But one second. Who was converging on his house? From young to old, all the people from every quarter. Right? Now, if you've got a crowd that's looking to sodomize some guy, right, you wouldn't really expect, the old people there. I mean, it seems very strange that everyone's in on this. But again, this was not simply the act of sodomy. This was maintaining their society, their way of life. And this is what they would do to someone who comes in, right, in order to make sure they don't come back again. Lot went out to the entrance, 87, shut the door. I beg you, don't act so wickedly. Right? So here he is. Lot is going to great, great lengths in order to save his guest. Wonderful. What does he say now? We have to see in Hebrew and English. It's astounding. Pasuk Chet in Hebrew, please. And then in English. Yafi? Hinen Ali?
הננה לי שתי בנות, אשר לא ידעו איש, הוציאו נא אתהם עליכם, ועשו להם כתוב בעיניכם. רק לאנשים האל אל תעשו דבר, כי על כן באו בצל קורתי.
Astounding. In English, please, verse 8, somebody.
He doesn't offer himself, he offers
That's it. Yeah.
Marta, see now?
See now, I have two daughters who have never known a man. I shall bring them out to you and do to them as you please. But these men do nothing inasmuch as they have come under the shelter of my roof.
So they've come under the shelter of his roof. His daughters? His daughters have not come under the shelter of his roof? His daughters have not come under the shelter of his roof?
Doesn't he offer his sons?
Right? So here we've got this distortion, this crazy, crazy distortion. Now, keeping the place that he had learned, turn to page, I looked up this morning, turn to page 668. This is the Parsha Kedoshim, where it discusses the forbidden relationships, intimate relationships. Verse 17 is very, very strange. We have to see it in Hebrew. Well, first we read it in English, and then we'll see how that doesn't do it justice. A man who will take his sister, the daughter of his father, the daughter of his mother, right, whether it's a full sister or a half-sister, he shall see her nakedness, and she shall see his nakedness. It is a disgrace. They should be cut off in the sight of the members of the people. He will have uncovered the nakedness of his sister. He shall bear his iniquity. Right? In English, it makes perfect sense. Let's hear in Hebrew. The ish asher. Debbie, you want to take that for us in Hebrew?
איש אשר ייקח את אחותו, בת אביו או בת אמו, וראה את ערוותה, והיא תראה את ערוותה, חסד הוא.
Chesed hu.
What does it mean?
That's a kindness.
Chesed hu. How do we define chesed? Kindness. Kindness. How do the English describe it?
Disgrace.
Disgrace. Fair enough. This is a chesed that means a disgrace. But how do we have the same word for kindness that we have for this? So really, if you think about it, we have our public kindness, giving, and we have our private kindness, giving, relationship. Intimacy is an act of giving. Now, when there are no parameters, or when we go beyond the parameters of where intimacy is meant to be, so that is chesed that has gone amok. Chesed is giving. It is relationship building. But it's gone amok. It's gone out of control. It ends up becoming a disgrace. But there is the private giving and there is the public giving. One is meant to include the greater world. The other one is meant to include only one's spousal partner. The inner circle of all inner circles. What's coming back to here to page 86? What's happening with Lot over here? His outer chesed, everything has gone amok over here. I've got to take care of my guests. I've got to take care of my guests. I've got to protect my guests. So the outer chesed has gotten to the point where it's so distorted that what's he looking to do? To give away his daughters, which involves that private chesed, to give away his daughters in order to protect his ability to do the outer chesed. It's just gone so distorted, so amok. Right? And they said, stand back. You came to sojourn. You're acting as a judge. We'll treat you worse than him. They tried to break the door. The men stretched out their hand. They brought Lot into the house. They closed the door on page 87. The people outside were struck with blindness. They couldn't find the entrance. The man said to Lot, whom else do you have here? Your son-in-law, daughter, son's daughter, all that you have out of this place, we're going to destroy this place. Hashem has sent us to destroy it. Lot went out, spoke to the sons-in-law, right? And his dawn was breaking. Angel said, get up, take your wife, your daughter's present, lest you be swept away because of the sin of the city. Still he lingered. They grabbed his hand, his wife's hand, his two daughters, took him outside the city, right? Don't look back. Famously, right, page 89, right? Let's go to the mountain. And famously, his wife looks back, turns into a pillar of salt, right? And they are saved over there. Now, the Medrash says, so all of this is going into saving Lot. Was anyone else recently saved from a death? A deathly situation, a deathly environment? Yeah, Avraham, wasn't he? What happened with Avraham? He was thrown into a furnace. Is that mentioned in the Torah? No, it's just barely alluded to by Ur Kasdim. And that, the Medrash tells us, the whole episode happened with Nimrod. He refused to bow down to the idol. He's thrown into a furnace. That is not mentioned in the Torah. This whole deliverance of Lot is mentioned in the Torah. Why is this? The Medrash says, Kum kach et ishtecha. The pasuk says, stand up, take your wife and your two daughters. Hanimtsaot, the two daughters who are found. The Medrash says, shtei mitziot. There are two real mitziot, a real mitzia, a real finding, a real mitzia. Right? A real mitzia. Now that's, if you get a really good bargain, you say, oh, that's a real mitzia. So Shtei Mitziot, these are Shtei Mitziot. These are real Mitziot. Who's that? Ruth HaMoaviyah and Naamah HaOmanit. Ruth from Moab, Naamah from Ammon.
And now in English.
This is Ruth the Moabite.
Where do you see that?
I'm reading the Medrash now. The Medrash says, why is this all being told here? Ruth the Moabite and Naamah Ammonite. Rav Yitzchak said, I found David my servant. Where did I find David? Where did I find King David? I found him in Sodom. Meaning what? Well, Ruth is going to come out from Lot. David is going to come out from Ruth. So the reason we have this whole story is because this is the, what do I call it? I used the word before.
Pedigree.
Yeah, no, but that led to Moshiach, the scandal. Right? Because this is the scandal that led to Moshiach. Let's see, and we'll need to understand why in the world would Moshiach come from scandal, right? But let's just see just how scandalous this really is.
I hate to interrupt, but how do they know that is Ruth?
God knows that. He said blood.
But we don't know.
How does the Medrash know?
Yes.
Oh,
So a Medrash is Torah Sheba'al Peh. Is the oral law, the oral Torah that is all the background runnings that are part of what's going on in the Torah. The sages, Chazal, through their Medrash, a good chunk of it was explained to Moshe. The same way that we have halachot in the Torah that are completely nondescript in the Torah. And the only way that we could possibly know what it means is through the explanation given to Moshe on Har Sinai, on Mount Sinai. For example, the classic example, it says you should tie it as a sign on your hands and a totafot between your eyes. And that refers to the tefillin. What is a sign? What's a totafot? Well, we know what it is because that was explained to Moshe. And that was passed down to us as the Torah Sheba'al Peh. So too, when it comes to these stories, there was underpinnings and harmony and all that's going on in these stories behind the scenes, and that was passed down, and that we have in the Medrash. So the Medrash says that what God found, what was found over here is, meaning the reason why we're going into the detail over here is because of that which will come from this. What did I find here? I found Ruth. I found Naamah. Generations later. Let's see how it's going to unfold.
By the way, the Midrash is not in the air, it's coming for something that said here. Because if you look, the daughters of Lot slept with their father, and the older one got pregnant, and she had Moab.
You're stealing my thunder.
Oh.
We're going to get there in a moment. Okay, so let's see now. Okay? Okay? Okay, now, Lot, page 89, the bottom line there, in English, please, verse 30. Someone take that for us, please. Linda, please.
Now Lot went up from Zoar and settled on the mountain, his two daughters with him, for he was afraid to remain in Zoar. He dwelt in a cave, he with his two daughters. The older one said to the younger, Our father is old and there is no man in the land to marry us in the usual manner. Come, let us ply our father with wine and lay with him, that he may give life to offspring through our father.
Continue.
So they plied their father with wine on that night, and the older one came and lay with her father, and he was not aware of her lying down and of her getting up. And it was on the next day that the older one said to the younger, Behold, I lay with my father last night. Let us ply him with wine tonight as well, and you come lay with him, that we may give life to offspring through our father. So So they plied their father with wine that night also, and the younger one got up and lay with him, and he was not aware of her lying down and of her getting up. Thus Lot's two daughters conceived from their father. The older bore a son, and she called his name Moab. He is the ancestor of Moab until this day.
And in Hebrew, Moab is May-Av, right? From dad. Like imagine a family, right, where incest took place, right? And they named the child, from dad. Right? That's the name they give the child.
In Alabama.
Right? And the younger one.
And the younger one also bore a son, and she called his name Ben-Avi. He is the ancestor of the children of Ammon until this day.
Okay. Now, very, very interesting. This I heard from Rabbi David Foreman, very interesting. The Medrash says, back before, right, that you are, when he was giving away his daughters, it said, you're giving away your daughters, you're actually saving them for yourself. Right? And he explains as follows. He gave a very nice explanation. Why is it? There are laws of yichud. Laws of yichud is men, women should not be alone in a situation which can lead to intimacy. Okay? There are no laws of yichud when it comes to a father and a daughter. There are no laws of yichud in those relationships. There's no prohibition of being alone. Why is that? What here? Like we're talking about a young girl, right? She becomes a teenager, right? She's like a full woman, right? Why is there not this lust between a father and a daughter? Or why shouldn't there be between a father and a daughter?
It's not natural to feel.
Why? Why isn't it? It is natural to feel desire for a member of the opposite sex. Why is that not the case? Why?
Because it's not natural. It's not
Why?
Because the gene pool will be messed up.
Because as a father, one respects your daughter, and as a daughter, you respect your son. I mean, your father. There's just a.
But
I also think it's biological.
What is the dynamic? It's not biological.
But
it does happen.
We know that.
You know that person is a little child,
Yeah.
little baby, raised. I don't know.
Okay, Linda.
All the love and nurturing and taking care of this person that you're now responsible for many years.
Okay.
A father is a creator of.
And I would say a father is a protector.
Right.
My role when it comes to my daughter is not for me to partake. My role is to protect.
And we already know that he didn't protect the girls.
Oh, once Lot abdicated that role of protector, what did he do? Here are my daughters. These men came under the roof of my house. How can I not protect them? Oh, so you've got to protect them, and you're abdicating your role as a protector of your daughters? Once you've abdicated that role, then the usual lusts, drives that human beings were created with, they come into play. And that's why we don't see it in the Hebrew, but in the English, but in the Hebrew, there are dots over the word that it says he didn't know when he lay down with her. There's a dot over when he got up with her, which means when he got up, he had an idea that something had happened. Nevertheless, the next night, he was fine to drink again. And that's where, the younger daughter came. So now we've got ourselves here, we've got this crazy, crazy distortion of chesed. Right? He went overboard with the chesed to the strangers, the public sort of chesed, and then he completely skewed. well, the chesed that one is supposed to have with his own children, that inner chesed, like we saw later on in Parsha Kedoshim, and that turned into him giving away his daughters, or looking to give away his daughters. The angels interceded and it didn't happen, and in the end what happened? He himself is with these daughters. Look what comes of this nation later on. Look what comes of this nation. If you turn to page 800 and no. 1 second. End of Parshat Balak.
Okay.
Page 874. This is after the whole incident there with Bilam and Balak. Okay? Chapter 25. Someone take that for us in English, please.
Israel settled in the Shittim, and the people began to commit harlotry with the daughters of Moab. They invited the people to the feasts of their gods. The people ate and prostrated themselves to their gods. Israel became attached to Baal Peor, and the wrath of Hashem flared up against Israel.
Good. Thank you, Janet. So what happened here is Bilam tried to curse the Jews, the Jewish people. It was ineffective. Okay? And then what happened? He tells them that the God of Israel hates immorality. The way to separate them from their God is by gross immorality. So what happened? The daughters of Lot the daughters of Moab availed themselves to the Jewish people. Right? So there was this whole-scale licentiousness of them just availing themselves. That led to worshiping the idols. The most despicable of idolatry is Baal Peor, right, which we've discussed before. Maybe we'll come to it again later on. And that is, but it all emanated from this harlotry of the daughters of Moab. Now, Did I say that? It means you need to wait. Okay? That all came from this freeing themselves to the children of Israel. Now, this nation of Ammon and Moab is not allowed to enter, to enter into the Kahal. What does that mean? There are certain nations, non-Jewish nations, that if they convert, they can't marry into the regular Kahal. Nowadays, we don't know anyone's nationality, ancient nationality. So being that the vast majority of nations don't have limitations, anyone who comes to convert, called the parish miruba kaparish, anyone who separates, we assume they have separated from the majority. Their status that we grant them is the majority status. Majority status has no limitations. Therefore, a man, a woman comes to convert, no limitations, and they marry into the kahal, into the congregation. But Ammon and Moab are amongst those nations which are not the men. Actually, it was a bit unclear, but the men, they are not allowed to enter into the kahal.
Except Ruth.
I'm sorry? We'll come to that soon. Why? Why are those nations excluded from entering the kahal? Right? Because they, when we were traveling out of Egypt, and we passed by them, they refused to help us. They refused to give us any bread and water. Right? Instead, the Medrash said they gave us the salty things that, and then we went through. It was harrowing for us. So do you hear what happened over here? The nation of Moab, they are mirroring this distorted chesed of Lot and their mother, Lot and his daughter, right? When it comes to the outer chesed, I refuse to give passers-by any food and drink. When it comes to that which is meant to be private, intimate, then they're out there, right? Sleeping with the Jewish men, enticing, seducing the Jewish men. So there is this crazy, crazy skewing of the way that chesed is meant to be. Now, Ruth ended up marrying, Ruth was a convert from Moab. She ended up marrying Boaz. If you remember when we read the book of Ruth, so we saw there that there was someone else who was first in line for the redeeming ahead of Boaz. But that person didn't want to marry Ruth, right? Pen achariv nachalati, I think the pasuk says, right? It will ruin my name, my inheritance, all that will come from me. Why? Because there was dispute. If the exclusion of Ammon and Moab was that only for the men and also for the women, or only for the men? So therefore he was unsure, right? This would ruin his name going forward. What's this person's name? Ploni Almoni. What does Ploni Almoni mean in modern Hebrew?
Nobody.
A nobody. That's John Doe, right? We have John Doe. In Hebrew, there's Ploni Almoni. So the guy who was afraid that it would lose, right, I'll have no name. What does his name become? No name. Ploni Almoni. Even later on, and David is a grandchild. Even later on, when David is going to fight Goliath. So Shaul says, "Who is this lad?" What do you mean, who is this lad? You know, he's been living in the palace. He was helping Shaul. Who is this lad? Meaning, is he worthy of royalty? And then Doeg, I think someone pops up and says, is he worthy for royalty? Is he worthy to be part of Kahal? He's a descendant from a Moabite. So we have this crazy scandal. The scandal of Lot. The scandal of his daughters that leads to the coming of the Moshiach. So why is there all of this print over here? And you see the whole nation became skewed. The whole nation becomes skewed. When it comes to the private, they're out there seducing. When it comes to the public, they're refusing to give some bread, to give some water. Now, that's on the mother's side of the birth of David. What other scandal do we have in Bereshit? What other somewhat sexual scandal do we have in Bereshit?
Yehuda.
You have Yehuda and Tamar. Yes, Jan?
Also earlier, Abraham and Paro and Sarah, where he says, and
okay.
And
But nothing came of that. But we also have the scandal. We also have the scandal of Yehuda and Tamar, right? Now, and what led to Yehuda being sent away? It was the whole scandal of the sale of Yosef, right? And that's what led to Yehuda being in a demoted stature and going away, and then having 3 sons, and then the oldest married Tamar, died. The next one married Tamar, died. The next one, he was waiting. Different opinions. Was he actually waiting for him to get older to marry Tamar, or was he just telling Tamar that, but he had no intention of her marrying him? Tamar then gets dressed up, right? And Yehuda passes by. Yehuda is intimate with Tamar, not knowing that this is actually his daughter-in-law. This was a quasi-yibum, Ramban says. Yibum is halachically, nowadays, Yibum is, well, according to the Torah, once the Torah is given, Yibum is if a man dies leaving a wife without any children, then the ultimate chesed that is done is to continue the lifeline of the brother, that she marries her late husband's brother, and the child is considered the progeny of. So there is this concept of Yibum. Now, once the Torah is given, it's only to the brother. Nowadays, well, according to Torah, you do either Yibum or you do Chalitza. Yibum brings about the marriage. Chalitza severs the connection. Nowadays, we still will need to do that in such a situation, but we don't do Yibum. We just do Chalitza, which is a ceremony that separates and then allows her to go marry anyone who she would like. Before the Torah was given, the concept of Yibum took place with whoever, any family member. So therefore she was trying to do Yibum, and that's what happened, and she had two, and then she's pregnant, and then Yehuda doesn't know that it is he who did it, right? And then what happens is, so she's being brought to court to be punished for her infidelity, and then she says, whoever this ring, cloak, and staff belongs to, that's from whom I am pregnant. Yehuda sees it, knows it's from him. Yehuda at that point could have saved face and saved her life. He could have said, well, I don't know who this belongs to, but in light of this new evidence, we're going to put things on hold until we find, and just keep putting on hold and save her life without humiliating himself. However, Yehuda was emet, was true, and Yehuda said, Tzadka, she's righteous, mimeni, right? It is from me that she is pregnant. She had two children, Peretz and Zarach, out from which came David. That's the lineage of Yehuda, which is the lineage of royalty, which is the lineage of King David, and is the lineage of Moshiach. All of that comes from Yehuda and Tamar on one side, Ruth, the daughters of Lot, and their father on the other side. So all of this ink is being placed over here because of the Metziot, because of that which is going to come out. All that leads to Mashiach. And even David himself, besides all of that, all of those skeletons in the closet, as we call it nowadays, right? Imagine trying to run for office, right? with all this going on, right? Besides all that, David himself, I forget the whole, I remember I looked it up in the Lekan, the Yaakov Miam Loes. David, Yishai himself, had separated from his wife. There was controversy over David's birth also. That's when the Navi Shmuel came to Yishai to say one of your sons will be. So he brought all the sons. He didn't bring David because his whole lineage was suspect. And only when Shmuel said, well, none of these are the candidate. Is there anyone else? Then he said, yeah, there's I have a young boy out in the field. He brought in David, and David was the one. So Moshiach comes from all of this muck. You'll pardon me.
You call David Moshiach?
Yeah, well Moshiach will come from David. Right? Ben David. Right? Right? The Moshiach will come from, once David became king, God assured him that the kings, it was the whole tribe of Judah which had the lineage of royalty, but it wouldn't be from the whole tribe of Judah. It would come specifically from you, David. And Melech Mashiach, the king, the Mashiach, will be a descendant of David. And the question is, why? Why would it be, or why is it that Mashiach is going to have all of this scandal, controversy. Right? I mean, this is this is what the supermarkets. Is it the National Star, National Enquirer? What is it?
It's not for you to read.
That's where you expect to see all this stuff, right? Why is it that Moshiach, Tzidkenu, the holy, righteous Messiah, is coming with all of this? Yeah, Ruti?
Maybe it's a clue that we're going to have Gog and Magog, all that before the Moshiach will come. We'll have before that a lot of terrible things going on in the world, and maybe that's like a clue. That's
Interesting. Interesting. Janet?
So if Moshiach heralds a redemptive time, maybe it shows that it wasn't necessarily a complete Moshe that it's not inaccessible for us too, that we can...
Nice idea. Nice idea.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, Rachel?
None of us are perfect, and this redemption comes for all of us with all our
Okay,
problems.
nice. Linda?
But if you look at it, every one of them lived in a society of improper things and no mitzvot, and yet each one did a mitzvah, a rather large for themselves, for us to look at.
Okay. Okay, nice.
I think that if we look at what happened, I think that the Torah is wonderful. I'm always amazed again and again. If we look, for example, Christianity, they had a Moshiach, okay? He had to be not a person, he had to be a son of God because he was perfect. I think in Judaism, there is only one perfect, there's God. Nothing else is perfect. And so if you look, there's so many midrashim that berating Moshe, like putting down, he didn't want to die, he did this and this. We know that we don't know where he died. We don't. Every time there is somebody that will be like holy or special, the Torah will find something bad with him and will show him flaw. Look at Abraham. I mean, just this Parsha.
Nice.
He's so flawed.
Nice.
You know?
Nice.
So I think that the Torah is wonderful comparing, like Muhammad, if you say something about him, you should be killed. Jesus for sure is God.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Our Mashiach is as a person.
Yeah, I always like to point out,
person.
in the beginning of Shemot, by the birth of Moshe, the Torah says, and a man married a woman and gave birth to a boy, and that was Moshe.
Right. And the great
it's fantastic in its simplicity and in its force. Right? He's not a man of God. He's not a child of God. It's a human being.
And
nice. What do you want to say?
All matters not the past. All matters is forward.
Where we're going forward. Yeah. Good. And I would just like to add a little flavor to the excellent points that you're all making. You know, very often, you know, I was meeting with someone last week, right, about 12 steps for Jewish people here. You know, addiction in the Jewish community. And there's a place called Beit Teshuvah in Los Angeles, which is a rehab clinic, right, for Jews, not just for Jews, but mostly Jews, right, who suffer with addiction, right. Now, who are the best counselors there? Right? Those who have recovered, or as they say, recovering, right? And who had the drive to found that? Right? Someone who right? Right. And that's how it is so often with different things. You know, someone who suffered abuse is looking to help those who are abused. Someone who's with addiction, whatever it might be, right? That's where, you know, the yeshiva that I taught at when I was teaching in Israel. So it was yeshiva made for that was made for guys who were not interested in high school. That's where I went. And that's why I wanted to teach there, because I felt I could best relate to these guys, because I was exactly there. And that's how it is very, very often. That's what you find. What is Mashiach coming to do? To take this world that is so in the muck, that is so scandalous, that is so controversial, that has sunken to such a level of immorality, right? Where it's just a given. One of the television shows that I used to love and I still enjoy is The Honeymooners. Right? The Honeymooners is an old show. Jackie Gleason, right? Ralph Cramden and Alice. Right? And I love it. It was classy 1950s. It was clean and hysterical. And one of the episodes was that they were going out to some sort of a costume party, and Alice, his wife, was wearing a skirt that was above her knee. And the whole episode was based on, Alice, you're not walking out of the house just like that. Right? That's what the whole episode was based on. And it's hard to imagine. Right? Is that from a different planet? Is that from, the Mashiach, what he needs to do is to take this world with all the craziness, that be it immorality, be it murder, that is so wanton, and to take this crazy, crazy world that is so far and to bring it back. So who will be able to take this world that is so scandalous and bring it back and bring it up to such a high level? Someone who was born from that scandal, who was brought up through that scandal, who was conceived through that scandal. And that is the way that we could have this complete turnabout that will come about from the Mashiach. So the story is not about Lot. The story is about Lot. But the story is about the capacity to turn around. That no matter where a person is, no matter where a society is, no matter where a person, as you said, came from, no matter what the baggage one brings, no matter what the history that one carries and one is shouldering, there is not just the potential for Kedusha, but that is the source from which the Kedusha, from which the holiness comes.
Also, when there's no, it doesn't make sense. The situation is, where's Hashem? No,
Yeah,
Hashem's
that's
in
where it
there.
comes out. Yes, that is correct.
That's really
Okay, my friends, we'll call it over
Thank you
here.
very much.
Thank you
Very
very
good
much.
lesson.
That's very good. I never thought about Lot study like this. By the way, how come the Parsha before, just a question, mentioned that a boy will be born to Abraham and his name will be Yitzchak? In Parsha How do you...
Avram was told that. Now Sarah is being told that. Avram knew about it already. Avram knew about this already.
Yeah.
Why didn't he tell Sarah? That's a question. Why did Sarah react the way she did? That's a question.
But they told him, the Malachim came and told him.
Now actually it says Levaseret Sarah. He knew about it already.
Very good.
But Rashi says Levaseret Sarah. לא לבשרת אברהם, הוא כבר ידע על זה.
מאוד מאוד טוב היום. אני פעם לא חשבתי על פרשת לוט ככה, זה פנטסטי.
There's a lot here.
היופי של היהדות, שאנחנו לא